point in our agenda is another great keynote from Hilary Hanahoe, the Secretary General of the Global Research Data Alliance. The Research Data Alliance is an international non-profit volunteer organization addressing the need for open and interoperable sharing and reuse of research data. Currently, RDA has a community of over 12,000 individual data professionals from 145 countries, collaborating on different open science and open data activities. Hilary was appointed Secretary General of the RDA in 2018. Her responsibilities include leadership, effective management of the RDA and its legal entity, engagement with RDA funders, stakeholders, and organizations, and sustainable stewardship of the dynamic, active, and high-impact community of members. Welcome, Hilary. It's great to have you here at the Miami conference. Welcome to Miami, virtually.
Thank you so much. I wish I was here with you. Unfortunately, I'm not, but it's lovely to see you on the stage. I am delighted to be with you, if we can say, at IATL, and I'm really deeply honoured by this invitation. As I said, I'm not there in person. We have our own conference in Seoul, in the Republic of Korea next week, and logistics were just not on my side for this. So I'd like to thank Anna Wałek and Chuck Ekman very, very much for extending this very kind invitation, and to all the team behind the organization of this event. I know hybrid events are experiments for us all, and they're hugely labor intensive. So thank you for the fantastic work that you're doing. And I have been able to join some of the sessions so far, and I've enjoyed them very much. My presentation, entitled Open Science, Open Research, Libraries at the Core, is of course focusing on the theme A, if you like, of your conference. So the changing landscape of research, open science, problem-based interdisciplinary research, community-based research, and data governance. And I'd like to share some experiences that I've gained through working with a global community, as Anna said, a very large global community of over 12,500 data practitioners. I hope to do them justice, but of course time is limited, and it's not sufficient enough to cover in any depth the open science, open research ecosystem, but I'll give you a little flavor. But what I have learned from the sessions that I was able to attend, particularly yesterday, is that it is an area that you are all tackling quite well, actually, as far as I can tell. And there's some really interesting case studies and experiences for us to learn from too. But let's start at the top with what is open science. And I thought that Heather Cunningham, I think, and Christina Kim from the University of Toronto put it quite well yesterday in their presentation, that there are a myriad of definitions and comprehensions of what open science is. Yeah. So I think everyone needs to take what is for them. But it is a global challenge, and there is a global movement behind it. And I suppose one example we can take is the UNESCO recommendation on open science. That, to my mind, it's good. It's very good foundation for the journey of open science that we're all attempting to take. It lays this sort of groundstone, if you like, for countries and institutions and disciplines to all work together as players in the ecosystem. And of course, I have known this since my work in the RDA, and I'll show it to you later, that it's no mistake, or how would you say, it's no easy thing that I say that libraries are at the core, because they have always been on our journey in RDA, and you have a very challenging but important role to play. Now, of course, to define these recommendations, a carefully crafted definition was made, and I believe it, even though it's long-winded, it does bear, if you don't mind, it's the only one slide I'm going to actually read the text from. But in this particular recommendation, which was ratified by all the countries and the UNESCO countries, is that it's defined as an inclusive construct that combines various movements and practices, aiming to make multilingual scientific knowledge openly available, accessible, and reusable for everyone. Now, to increase scientific collaborations and the sharing of information for the benefits of science and society, and to open the processes of scientific knowledge, evaluation, and communication to societal actors beyond the traditional scientific community. It does comprise all scientific disciplines and aspects of scholarly practices, including basic and applied sciences, natural and social sciences, and the humanities, and it builds on key pillars of open science knowledge, open science infrastructures, science communication, open engagement of societal actors, and open dialogue with other knowledge systems. So it's quite a long-winded. I don't think it will be very good for the elevator pitch, you know, what's open science in a nutshell, but it is quite a visionary and broad definition. But for me here, what I pick out of all of that actually is, if I have to pick something, it's for the benefits of science and society. And that open science has a true value to all, despite the fact that it is really the research and the scientific community and that ecosystem that are working very hard towards achieving this vision. But it really will have a benefit for all. I do appreciate, though, that for you and for any of us working in this, but particularly you, as I'm addressing you today, there are many and huge challenges, that you need to sort of face to take this leap of faith in the open science journey. And there are many, many obstacles like funding, resources, skills. There's a whole culture change aspect that needs to be taken into consideration, and sort of endemic practices that you need to support or actually help be instrumental in the changes as well. But I think it's important to remember as well that you're not alone, and that there are many, many people facing those challenges and many players. And this is what I will try to show you today. So we know if you surf the web, you'll find many different things around open sciences and images. I like this one because I like nature, but I also like the idea behind it that it's a tree. Yeah, and that it has deep roots and a very solid base, but that actually all the nuances and the different aspects of open science are growing out on the branches in a, you know, in a very, how would you say, sort of free way, and that if it's nurtured and if it's looked after, it will grow and it will expand and it will bear fruit. No, now there are many different labels on this. You know, it might be hard to read, but the idea is that there are so many different aspects of open science. I believe what's important is, when tackling it, is to identify an area or areas that you wish to address first. So where would you like to invest first? Where can you invest first? What aspects will perhaps help you to achieve the institutional goals that open science can bring to it? And these are many, many difficult choices. I do really appreciate that. But of course, there are many benefits of open science. And I really like this cartoon, if you can read it. It comes from Max Planck and for their PhDs, but it's unfortunately something that we're well used to hearing about, you know, and how it's a situation that many researchers and students indeed face, you know. So where do you start from scratch? No, there's something there already. Oh, where is it? How can I get at it? What am I going to do? But a key step on the road to contributing and to achieving the open science goals, as you can, is good research data management, of course. And I know that that's very important for your organizations. So you can see from the other images, of course, there are many opportunities that will result from good and or even excellent open science practices, like quality and integrity and the global and economic benefits, innovation and efficiency of research, etc. But I mean, okay, so we could say, well, why should you care? Or what are the really true benefits? No, there are different statistics available. I think many of them are from commercial organizations, but they say that around the time, the percentage of time that is dedicated to what we call as data wrangling, or I like that word wrangling because it really feels like you're hanging on to a bull or something, or data cleaning. No, so it's the process of cleaning and unifying messy and complex data for easy access and analysis and reuse, etc. And the statistics say that it's somewhere between 45 and 80%. There's a big difference between that, and I'm sure it's somewhere perhaps in the middle. But the question is, who's actually dedicating this 80, 45, 65, 80%? No? Is it the researcher? Is it you as the library or the information managers, or somebody else? And whoever it is, it's an awful lot of time to spend and is being taken away from other roles and other jobs. And it's possibly because the people who are tasked to do it have not the resources, the skills, and the tools to do it and to reduce that time. And of course, open science and practices around good research data management and open science can help very much with this. So that's where those benefits come in. And none of these, if you like, point to the data wrangling, those that you see on the slide, but to, I suppose, more tangible benefits, which are also valuable when we try to raise awareness around why somebody should start their research or scientific life with good data management, around collaboration, around increased citation of data. And that brings you to a whole new world of research assessment and evaluation, which I think is a topic for a completely other talk, but one we could delve into well, and I'm sure is part of your program of discussions as representatives of the university libraries, because it's a very hot topic at the moment. But also reproducibility and the efficiency of research and making the results and the associated data, of course, available for others to reuse, to reproduce, and fundamentally to reduce the duplication of efforts as well. So, and there's also aspects around compliance with open practices, but from an institutional, but also from a funder perspective. So I think it's a bit of a lot, it's a lot to take in really, isn't it? And there's so many aspects, benefits, opportunities, but challenges and roads to take. And I imagine for many, it's kind of overwhelming and you feel like a bit of a lone sailor in a very vast sea. But I think you must remember that you're actually not alone. And it's true that maybe not everybody is in the same boat, as we like to use that saying. You're all in different boats and there are different, but remember that you're all sailing these seas together and trying to go in the same direction. So it's not a solo journey. So my advice would be to pick a challenge, pick a pathway, and let's take the research data management as an example. And forgive my bells, they'll ring 9 times. It's a piece of the open science puzzle, but in itself, look at all those things on it, has many aspects to be taken care of. Just the data life cycle and everything that goes on around it, the training, the support, the guidance, not to talk of business plans and sustainability and policies and strategy. So that's kind of, if you like, where the Research Data Alliance comes in. So the Research Data Alliance was set up in 2013 to deal with challenges like these. Funnily enough, if you read any of our founding documents, the words open science were never ever in them. However, it was a bottom-up, the concept was a bottom-up, community-driven initiative to facilitate global collaboration on data sharing and reuse aspects. So in 2013, it was launched with this very grand, if you like, and quite ambitious vision that researchers and innovators should openly share and reuse data across technologies, across disciplines, and across countries to address the grand challenges of society. So the technologies, the disciplines, and the countries. So it was, RDA is not unique, I would say, but in a certain way it is because of its bottom-up aspect, but also the fact that we approach all technologies, all disciplines, and all countries. And how is that done? It's done to achieve that vision. It's to build both the social and the technical bridges to enable that vision, yes? And we put as equal an emphasis on the technical solutions and the social networking aspect, the building of trust and the building of connections. And this picture sort of, to my mind, is, I like it because it, to me, depicts in one image a little bit the RDA community. I've used many analogies in my lifetime as the Secretary General, but this one here is like, we call it 1,000 flowers blooming, and RDA is open to all to come together and to discuss and resolve, and I'll tell you a little bit about how it works afterwards. But this picture shows that there are many, many different varieties, of disciplines, countries, technologies, all together in the same, if you like, fertile ground, working together and living in the same ecosystem. And the community in the Research Data Alliance and the organization itself, but also anyone who does work with us and together, they are fundamentally following these 6 guiding principles. And I think they're very important for those looking on, but also those doing the work. So everything is open. All the work and the discussions that take place in the Research Data Alliance, they're open, they are available. They are non-profit and technology neutral at their delivery so that they can be easily implemented and adopted and customized. Everything's community driven. We strive for harmonization. We don't want to duplicate efforts. We want to, if anything, reduce them, reduce standards, combine ideas and activities together so that it's less complex for those who are looking for solutions. And of course, inclusivity is very, very important, and that everything is consensus driven. RDA looks at many, many different areas, and this is just a sample, but some words that, of course, like the FAIR agenda, the findable, accessible, interoperable, and reproducible. I'll give you some examples of that afterwards. Data infrastructures from, an organizational right up to a global level, discipline-focused data issues, policy alignment, policy development. We aren't a policy body. There are others that we work very closely with who are. Ours is very much the idea that the community, it's by the community, for the community, because it's the community, it's you who know the challenges and the difficulties that are being faced. So just a few words about RDA. I like to call it a family. A very large global family spread across 145 countries of over 12,500 individuals or data practitioners coming from all areas to work together through the mechanisms that I'll show you next, and to collaborate, to discuss, and to generate outputs. Yes. We also have organizations in our family. They are members, if you like, they sustain us also financially, but their role is really to adopt, to implement, to customize, to take the solutions or the outputs and then to implement them to a more institutional, if you like, scenario. And they also bring very important organizational perspectives to the table. And then we have nations or regions, as we want to call them, over 30 of them, and they bring the geographical perspective. Yeah, so we have a network of different regions, and we, of course, would like to grow that to all the countries in the world, and hopefully we will one day. But the linguistic and the cultural aspect of the data challenges that are being faced and the solutions that are required are really important. So that's sort of, if you like, who makes up our family. And really how the Research Data Alliance works is in 3 very simple ways. Yes, working groups, very focused. They have a specific target. They're going to create tools or standards or code or whatever it is. They work together for around 18 months. And then once they have delivered their output, it's available for everyone to use. And then it moves on. They move on to a maintenance mode or to do something else. Interest groups, I'm going to show you an example of our most successful interest group afterwards, are look around data sharing problems. They're more broad, if you like, and they actually move on to provide some very important outputs, but also to perhaps spin off working groups that are specifically focusing on an aspect. So we have interest groups that are disciplinary focused, if you like, some around legal interoperability is one example, and more besides. And our newest, if you like, addition to the family are communities of practice, and they're domain or disciplinary focused at the moment as a trial. And there are larger, if you like to think of it, interest group. So they come together to work internally and externally with a broad community of people. And our example is the agricultural data together, and they're building bridges, if you like, looking at what's available inside RDA, where are the gaps in their particular domain or discipline, and how can we build on what's already available or create more and give it back. So that's really how the Research Data Alliance works. So I'd like to focus for a moment on a couple of examples. Of course, this is the one I wanted to show you. And as it happens, no joke, the RDA Libraries for Research Data Interest Group has been with us for a long time. In fact, I really think they should become a community of practice, though they're probably thinking, well, you have to change the disciplinary aspect, Hilary, before we can do that. But it's a hugely, it's our largest group. We have the largest number of members. Anyone can join, by the way. You sign up to RDA, it's free, and then you can join the groups and follow the discussion and contribute to them, or any that you want, and you sign up to the mailing list. So, but it has over, I think, if I'm not wrong, 400 members. And I'd like to give you two quick examples of outputs. So they're not a working group. They're not delivering, if you like, something that goes towards a standard. That's why I say that they're really important, the outputs. And this is our most successful output. It's been around since 2016, and it was updated recently in 2020, but has proved to be a very simple but very important toolkit or starter, if you like. And it's 23 things, libraries for research data. And basically it's a two-paged output in 12 different languages, by the way. The group has done it. And when I say this with a smile on my face, I'm very proud, but I have nothing to do with it. I just facilitate it all. This is the community that does all of this and works hard to make it available to everyone else. And that's what's so wonderful about the Research Data Alliance. So there are tips and links on data management plans. They're on citing data, licensing and privacy aspects, data repositories and things like that. So, and by the way, the slides will be available afterwards, and they're all linked. So you're more than welcome, please, to use them to visit these resources. Another really important, and I would point this to you as well, it's available as a download PDF, is a publication that was done by the 23 the Libraries for Research Data group around effective data management, and research data management, and how to engage researchers with it. Yes. And it's basically what they call the cookbook of 24 different use cases. And the majority, actually there's a huge number of them from university libraries, that showing different aspects of how what they have done to engage researchers with data management. So use cases, and they call it the cookbook because this image on the right there is to try and show you, if you look at the book, and I really do suggest that you go and look for it. The use cases are trying to look at different scenarios with a larger or a smaller number of PhD students, for example, with a larger or a smaller or a medium-sized full-time employees that are dedicated to research data management, et cetera, et cetera. So they call it, and it's a dip in, dip out book. You can use it whenever way you want. Right, what about FAIR? Well, FAIR, as we all know, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. RDA has a number of different activities the groups focused on FAIR, if you like, for research software and data management. For virtual research science environments, there's a FAIR data maturity model. It's a model to help assess, if you like, the maturity of the data and things like that. Of course, many of the groups now use the word FAIR, and we have a FAIR track in our conference next week and things like that. But much of them, it's like what I said at the beginning, we didn't talk about open science when we started RDA, and yet it's fundamental and core to everything that is really doing. So they're all pieces, if you like, of the building blocks to get to that. And then what about repositories? Because I understand that your institutional repository situation differs from one institution to another, or one library to another. And this is a group that there's a lovely podcast, Data Streams, about the data repository attributes working group. And they're basically trying to make it easier for both people and machines to find data repositories and to identify the data repository that's most appropriate for their needs and the kind of data. And we know that, this one size doesn't fit all there. It's a complex challenge, if you like, to approach. And so they are doing some work, and I believe by the end of the year they will have this, if you like, data repository attributes. And as you can see, librarians themselves are, of course, yourselves are one of the beneficiaries, if I like, of this output. So I really hope that it's valuable for you, but the link is there as well. And the last example I wanted to use was not so much about the output, though it is one. It was just to show you a little bit about cross-disciplinary effort as well, an example of that in the Research Data Alliance, and the nature of the work, which this was, I suppose, a particular case because, like many initiatives when COVID happened, we thought, what can we do? And we had over 400 volunteer people come together and in the space of 6 months issue 6 versions to come to the final version of recommendations and guidelines on sharing COVID-19 data. And as you can see, it was from 8 different, if you like, disciplinary areas and themes. So we had the clinical, the omics, the epidemiology, and the social sciences. And I suppose that this is just one example of the many different things. It's a very valuable output, but the understanding that by working, together, and that there are many different cross-disciplinary efforts, and by sharing the challenges, you can get closer to your, if you like, solutions and goals. So I suppose we'll go back to the sea analogy and the boats, if you don't mind, while I wrap up. So the open science sea, I think it's truly varied, and all that sail in that sea, as you can see, are of different sizes and different associated challenges, So the tall ships, they have more staff. We can see them all sitting there, and they have more wind and more resources, and they can go to the high seas perhaps. And the smaller boats, they need less resources, but they have their own limitations too. So I hope that I've given you a bit of an insight into the possible support networks and solutions that the Research Data Alliance, but other open science initiatives that are making things really open can offer. And I think that I go back to my message from the beginning, what is important, I think, to recognize and remember is that we're all in this together. What you think is your challenge, many people are dealing with them or have dealt with them together. And these meetings, these online fora, networks like the Research Data Alliance, associations like IATO, they're key players in this voyage, to help raise awareness, to make resources and solutions available, and to share what works, and also, most importantly, what doesn't work. We know that the failed experiments in these cases are very important also as well, and they're really valuable to us to get to sort of move forward and to get this vision. So as we say in RDA, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it is a mantra that we've adopted, and it's one I witness the fruit of every single day in my role as an ambassador for a truly open and collaborative community, and as an advocate for openness and collaboration. So I would like to thank you all very much for the attention. And please don't hesitate to contact me if you would like others. And if I were there, we would be perhaps meeting at the coffee breaks and things and having questions. But I do hope you have 1 or 2 questions for me now. But anyway, but please remember that it's the Research Data Alliance is by you and for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary, for this fantastic speech and inspiring. And we still have plenty of time for questions. So I will start with my question. What are the most emerging issues for the community of data stewards?
Gosh, you go easy, don't you, Hannah? Yeah, no, that's, well, I don't know. As I said, I think there are many, many challenges. The emerging issues, I think I mentioned a little bit about research, the evaluation and assessment activity, and I see that's going to be, there's going to be a lot of focus on that, I think, in the coming years. No, and it's very much tied with, I think, data steward activities. Well, they have a role to play in it as well, because to I suppose change, if we want to say that, or give another focus, or yeah, I suppose a spotlight to the whole career and research evaluation thing, the aspects around data, around collaboration, around citation and things like that will be very important. I think, you know, I don't know how far we are in, I've worked in this field for a long time, and we get new, sort of like the FAIR is now around for a few years and things like that, but we've made a lot of progress. I think there are so many, many challenges still to be taken over, and also because of the many disciplines that you're dealing with, the different, if you like, I suppose, institutional challenges as well. So I don't know if I have a shopping list of the emerging challenges for data stewards. I believe that the reducing the percentage of data wrangling for them, or maybe by them, would be wonderful. If it really truly is as high as they say, that's an awful lot of time invested in managing data that surely, you know, would be well invested elsewhere. So.
And what about the certificates for repositories? Is there an issue for one of your groups of interest? The quality of repositories?
We do. Actually, that's a really interesting story, that one. That's a really good example of how there were two. So we have the Cortra seal, which is the certification of repositories. Is that what you meant by the data repository certification? The Cortra seal is an output from RDA. It was born in RDA through a collaboration between the Data Seal of Approval and the World Data System. And they had two sets of, if you like, requirements for certification of repositories. And there was some overlap, but then there was some not, you know, areas that were not, if you like, synchronized. And they came together and worked very hard together, actually, to reduce the number of standards in the world by one and come up with the Cortra seal, which is, of course, now flying on its own wings, and it's doing wonderful work around the certification aspects for repositories. I think they have over 160, if not more. But I can, every time I, you know, use it as an example on my slides, I go to look for the numbers and they're higher. But yeah, of course they have. That's becoming. I don't know in all countries, but I think in Europe there's starting to be a thing going towards this, you know, a sort of, not a mandatory, but if you say, of certification of repositories, which so perhaps maybe mandatory is not an ideal solution, because we know that, you know, that's not the best approach to take. We always said in the Research Data Alliance that you shouldn't regulate too much, you know, that it's better, it's still too fresh and new of a field for regulations, like stringent regulations, to be, if you like, put into place, because that can bring you down a road that you don't particularly want to travel, perhaps.
Yes, but do you think this would be a way of evaluating the fairness of repositories?
Well, yes, but then that brings you to a whole discussion. It would, of course, and I mean, I suppose it's like other certification systems. No, they give a sort of reliance and how would you say a stamp, a quality to things, and people are reassured. They buy products that have a certain, you know, maybe they've been through a certain safety process if they're for children and things like that. So it's a similar concept. I think, yes, indeed, they can very much contribute to that. I think with all the sort of policies that are going towards you making your data fair, that it would seem to be the best road to travel to help in understanding, you know, or to having repositories that themselves are, if you like, fair and have can take fair data and all that sort of thing. But it's a really complex issue, and I think it excludes, actually, it can be quite exclusionary if we're not careful to certain parts of the world or certain parts of the scientific field. So I would say that you could see it going towards that, but maybe at a slower progress than some people would like.
Thank
but
you.
I think that, yeah, I think if I could finish, sorry, Anna, to interrupt, but just to say that I think that, you know, we, of course, the Research Data Alliance is global, and we, like yourselves, of course, and I think we need to very much bear in mind that, you know, there are different situations across the globe that don't allow for, or shouldn't allow, if you like, for a certain pace of progress to be made at the risk of leaving others behind. So, and making it no longer fair or accessible for them.
Thank you, Hilary. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, please.
I'm wondering if you could weigh in on the science, in open science. It's something that I think I struggle with a little bit. It sometimes feels like the humanities are just tacked on as an afterthought. I looked even at the UNESCO statement around open science, and it talks about science communication, and it just says and humanities. And sometimes the language can feel like it's disenfranchising some of the disciplines. So I don't know whether you would be willing to weigh in on the humanities in the scope of open science, or is that too cruel of a question?
Well, I can't, thank you for the question. I don't know who it was, but thank you. No, it's not a cruel question. I'm not an expert, as you probably understood. So I don't know how much I can weigh in on it, except to say that well, yeah, I mean, they do mention it in the definition. That's why I used it. It's an all-encompassing one. But one thing is defining it. And then I think you're right. One thing is actually what is the approach to it and how feasible and practical is that. From my own experience with the Research Data Alliance, there's quite a significant amount of work with the humanities field and things like that. And one that I hope we contribute to making it understand clear that they are also, you know, a fundamental player. But that is, I suppose, our motto. So I'm possibly not the best person to give you because a good answer to the question, because of the fact that we are all encompassing and it does work inside RDA. However, that is in a if you like, in a network scenario, in a working together and in a making available a solution. But let's be honest that when the solutions are being defined, it is up to the community or the people who are, if you like, developing it themselves. And while that's open to all, there are always drivers. So you may then find this solution that, I don't know, I'm just thinking, what the legal interoperability is probably the most, the one that comes to my mind at the moment. It could be applicable to one discipline, but not at all appropriate, if you like, for the humanities and things. So I do think that the open science is a very good vision to have. Then how far, I prefer then to talk more pragmatically about things like research data management, which I think is more within the grasp and more practical for, you know, the people like yourselves and all the others working on the challenges. Clearly, it will be a huge contribution to the open science movement, but yeah, early days.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so much, Hilary, for being here with us. It's been a great pleasure for us to have you here. Have a big,
Yes.
let's give a big applause to Hilary.
Thank you for having me, and the very best of luck with the rest of the conference. And I hope maybe one day I'll be at one of your conferences in person.
Thank you. Thank you, Hilary.
Thanks so much.
See you next time. See you in Seoul.
Yes. Thanks, Anna. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.